15 mind-blowing changes are confirmed in iPhone 15. A few months from now, Apple is going to introduce changes to the iPhone that Apple has never done before. Over the years, Apple has created differences in the Pro and non-Pro lineup. This time this difference is going to be bigger. Today we are going to know 15 changes in iPhone 15. There are going to be some changes that will surprise you completely, and some changes may even disappoint you a bit. These changes have already begun. Apple asked LG to make the display for their upcoming iPhone 15, but LG's display doesn't match Apple's standards. So if Apple doesn't have a display collaboration with LG, it's possible that even if the iPhone 15 launches on September, it will be available in October. Starting with the iPhone 15 design. Apple changes the design every 3 years. The iPhone 10, 10s, and 11 were almost identical. Again, iPhone 12, 13, and 14 Prime are the same. As such, there are certainly going to be some noticeable changes in the iPhone 15 this time. But this change will be so subtle that you may not notice it easily. So far, both sides of the iPhone are completely flat, but the back of the iPhone 15 will be slightly curved. So there will be two benefits. The first is that the sharp feeling when picking up the phone will no longer be there. Second, this design will complement Apple's MacBook design. Rumors are also coming that this time iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max will be built with titanium chassis. But this leak also came for iPhone 14, but we did not get titanium chassis in iPhone 14. That's why we can strongly say that maybe we are going to get titanium chassis in iPhone 15, just like Dynamic Island. We heard rumors back then that we would get a Dynamic Island on the iPhone 13, but we didn't get a Dynamic Island on the iPhone 13, but we did get a Dynamic Island on the iPhone 14. So since we didn't get the rumored titanium chassis on the iPhone 14, so it's pretty much certain that the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max are going to be built with titanium chassis. Remember, we will get two advantages in titanium chassis. The first advantage is that the phone will be more durable, and the second advantage is that the weight of the phone will be slightly lighter due to the titanium chassis, but maybe because of this the price of the phone will increase a lot. Well, the design is often the same, but the performance is not at all the same because we are going to get the first 3nm chipset in the iPhone 15. A 17 Bionic chipset with 8GB of RAM. So there is going to be a gap in the performance of the iPhone 15 compared to the previous one. In the non-Pro, we have the A16 with the 6GB of RAM option. To be honest, it doesn't look like we will see a significant change in the A17 over the A16. Because, look, the iPhone 12 came out 3 years ago. If we do a performance competition with iPhone 12 with the current latest iPhone 14, then the iPhone 14 will be only 2 seconds more than iPhone 12. Then it was seen that even in the current latest iPhone, we are getting the performance of 2 or 3 years ago. That's why Apple has released the power of their A17 in performance, instead of efficiency and the post-processing of camera and video. That's why we expect to see 4K 60 frames per second cinematic mode this time. If Apple can use the core performance of A17 in video post-processing to fully master edge detection, believe me, it will be a big surprise for many big camera companies. The next biggest change is going to be the Dynamic Island. The good news is that this time all iPhone 15 series devices will have Dynamic Island. This has 3 advantages for Apple. Firstly, the trend of using last year's chipset in non-Pro phones will be mitigated and acceptance will increase. Second, in the excitement of having Dynamic Island, people may forget that the iPhone still offers such a large cutout even for a $1,000 iPhone. And 3 RDLY, when more Dynamic Island phones are released in the market, developers will need more flexibility to optimize the Dynamic Island software. By the way, the iPhone's Dynamic Island and Nothing phone LED lights on the back of the phone require developers to make several changes to the software to use them properly. Since there is not enough Dynamic Island in the market, maybe there was no enthusiasm among the software developers of Dynamic Island until now, or at least many of them were slacking off. But since all iPhone 15 series phones are going to include Dynamic Island, it can be said that there is a huge field of work for software developers of Dynamic Island in the future. Dynamic Island is coming to the non-Pro phones of the iPhone 15 series, which is a very happy thing for iPhone lovers. But what is even more exciting is that the cameras of the non-Pro phones are also going to get an upgrade. Yes, we have seen in the iPhone 14 series launched last year, iPhone 14 and 14 Plus i.e. non-Pro series had a 12-megapixel main shooter, and iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max had a 48-megapixel main camera. But now in all series of iPhone 15's Pro and non-Pro phones, the main camera is going to get 48 megapixels, which is very exciting news. I got the upgrade on the non-Pro, but what about the upgrade on the Pro devices? In iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, we are going to get Sony's new upgraded sensor. This sensor is made with the same technology used in Sony's Xperia 1 Mark V. So it is certain that the camera has been given a lot of time and emphasis at this year's Apple iPhone event. Talking about the camera, this new sensor of Sony is used in both iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max. But there is new news that we are going to get a new periscope lens in the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which will come with 3x to 6x variable zoom. But I am very confused about it. Two problems here: Apple itself knows their phones will last 5 years very well, that's why they give updates for 5 years. So Apple is not supposed to use any technology that will reduce the lifetime of their phones. And variable zoom means a lens system that physically moves. That means the more moving components inside the phone, the more likely they are to deteriorate quickly. Since the word variable lens has come, the worry is here. The second problem is this: assuming that Apple gave a fixed focus lens on the 5x or 6x, then how to take the famous 3x portrait mode photo of the iPhone? It is 80% certain that this iPhone's Pro series will have a periscope lens, but it is a matter of seeing whether this lens will be variable or fixed. With this camera, the Pro series will be fitted with a LiDAR sensor. This time it is also going to be upgraded. With this LiDAR sensor, portrait mode and accurate images will come in low light, and the auto-focusing in low light will also be quite good. And these will only be in the Pro series. And the difference that is going to be created clearly shows that Apple wants people to buy their expensive products. That's why, look here. iPhone 15's non-Pro phone's bezel is very thick, and the display bezel of iPhone 15 and 15 Pro is so narrow that there is no phone with such a narrow display in the world's phone industry. The thicker bezels of the curved display are seen above and below the display, but the iPhone's bezel thickness is the same all around. So Apple can certainly claim the title of slimmest bagels in any smartphone ever. But still, this is not a big deal. The big thing is that currently the most expensive Android, i.e. Samsung S23 Ultra, has the highest display nit of 1760, while the display nit of the current iPhone 14 Pro Max is 2270. Now it will come to iPhone 15 Pro Max with the brightest display of 2500 nits. And so the iPhone 15 will be the brightest display in any smartphone ever. So it has to be said, this extremely bright display will also have a negative side, and that is it will consume a lot of battery power. And at this point, Apple played another game. A completely new battery technology is going to be used here, and that is where Apple used to increase the battery power generation-wise by 30 mAh, 40 mAh, and 50 mAh. This time Apple is going to increase the battery power from 300 mAh to 600 mAh in the iPhone 15 series. This will have two advantages. The first is that the extra battery power consumption due to the 2500 nits display will be compensated by this extra mAh. Battery life will always be available, and even after using it outdoors for a long time, your battery power will not drop significantly. Second, Apple wants people to switch to MagSafe or wireless chargers now, which is why they want to remove charging ports from their phones as soon as possible. And so far people are not adopting wireless charging because they think that their phones are getting hotter due to wireless charging, and because of this, the battery is getting damaged quickly. But the battery technology used in the iPhone 15 series will also control the heat of the battery very well. The most important thing is that the battery performance of the iPhone 15 is going to be amazing. I remember very well that what Apple is going to do now has not been done in the last 16 years. The mute switch of the iPhone has been the same since the beginning. But this time it should change into an action button. It will be a programmable button just like we have been getting on the Apple Watch Ultra so far. You can do whatever you want to do with this button. Like taking screenshots, opening the camera, silent, and many more. This button will not be pressed. But you will think that this button is pressed because of haptic. Just like the MacBook trackpad. If you don't have this experience, you can visit any Apple store and try this experience on a MacBook trackpad. Its feedback is so heavy that no one will feel that the trackpad is not being pressed. Now we must have been very happy to hear about these upgrades so far. So let's hear some concerns. We know that Type-C is going to come in this year's iPhone. But that's a good thing. I have no problem with Type-C. The problem is in its implementation. There are two problems. Firstly, the Type-C that iPhone is going to come with may include MFI Certify. That means if you don't use the proper MFI Certify cable on the phone, then maybe the phone won't charge properly or the data won't transfer. This simply means that the Type-C cable you have at home may not work for this phone, and therefore you may have to buy a cable with MFI certification. Secondly, with only iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, you will get 3.2 Thunderbolt 3 support. You'll only get USB 2.0 on the non-Pro models, where you will not only get charging speed, but it will show that a $1,000 phone is giving the data transfer speed of a $200 Android phone. This is going to be very disappointing. The next biggest disappointment is the display refresh rate of the non-Pro series. Only 60 Hz. Come late 2023, a $1,000 phone with a 60 Hz refresh rate will be hard to believe. Although iPhone 60 Hz is better than Android's 200 Hz, it is still not acceptable. You may be angry to hear that Apple's future roadmap plans were leaked a few months ago, let alone iPhone 15 seen there. iPhone 16 series non-Pro models or 60 Hz refresh rate display will be available. Going to the iPhone 17, we can see the 120 Hz refresh rate display in the non-Pro models. The next change is not a change at all. That is the charging speed. Until now, Apple has been selling only 20W chargers, and their phones are still supporting 26 to 27 watts maximum. It is heard that this year's iPhones will only support 40 watts, but it is still not certain. But the upcoming changes of the iPhone 15 demand 40 watts, because USB Type-C has arrived along with new battery technology. And more importantly, the iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max come with a 5000 mAh battery. Then the 20-watt charger to charge the phone will destroy our hobby of using the phone. So, the logic is directly saying that we want to have a 40-watt charger with this iPhone 15 series. Finally, let's come to the price. Last time, the price of the iPhone increased in the whole world except the USA. But this time the price of the iPhone is going to increase in the USA itself. And the whole world will undoubtedly increase. Well, let's leave the whole world aside and look at the USA. It is said that the price of the non-Pro models will be the same, but among the Pro models, the 15 Pro model will cost $100 and the 15 Pro Max model will come with periscope lens, variable lens, and LiDAR sensor, so the price will increase up to $200 in this model. And of course, 256GB storage starting from. So this was a candid discussion about 15 mind-blowing changes of the iPhone 15. Which model is going to be perfect for you, and which model you are going to buy? Please inform your opinion in the comments box. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe now. Coming back soon with a new video. Till then, stays well.